Coronavirus is dramatically affecting work and life plans across the globe. More than 80,000 people have been found to be infected and just under 3,000 have died. So how can you and your workplace be better prepared? We separate facts from myths and talk about the hidden impact of the coronavirus.
I was meeting a couple of friends and we went to a party. Obviously, it's closed spaces and it's a lot of people. And so somebody introduced me and said, oh, she's from China. And then he joked, oh, that's how your Chinese come to destroy us Indians, right?
Oh
so you send
God.
people to a party, to a crowded place, and then, everybody's going to have the virus, for example. Huh? And then at the beginning of the outbreak, when I just arrived here, and then we start to ask questions. I think in normal circumstances, this question would be fine. So they ask, oh, what kind of interesting animals that you eat? And is it related with bat? Of course, no, like the origin of the virus and everything. And then we start to discuss what kind of animals I have it, and then they never did. And so this kind of a feeling that we reduce a person to a certain race and reduce them just to that nationality.
Well, have you seen, Subodh, these WhatsApps that come in the morning about the myths around coronavirus, and suddenly everybody starts believing them? WHO has outlined some of them, and I want to quote them. Hair dryers are effective in killing you. Coronavirus is one of the popular myths. Spraying alcohol or chlorine all over your body will kill viruses. That's another one. It's not safe to receive a letter or package from China. My producer was telling me some people are saying, don't eat Chinese food.
Yes.
You can get coronavirus. I mean, have you seen these myths at workplaces as well?
Not exactly at workplace, but definitely on social media, on WhatsApp. Many things are floating. People say, okay, you take garlic, you will never get coronavirus. I don't know how correct it is.
This sort of phobia, this sort of fear, discrimination comes from both too much news and sometimes not accurate news. What's not going around enough is that you may be seeing 80,000 cases today, but and you may be seeing about 3,000 deaths, which is roughly about 3% fatality. But this is an already selected population. These are people who got really sick and who went to hospitals. So even those who went to hospitals, 97% recovered, only 3% died, right? So, you have to look at it in that perspective.
But also the fact that there is no cure or vaccine at the moment. And how prepared is India? Because we've seen in Kerala, for example, 3 cases reported and thankfully they were discharged. We've seen Kerala fight virus cases like Nipah, Zika. They have been quite efficient. What can be learned from these models?
I'm glad you asked that question, Devina, because Kerala is one state that has developed its health infrastructure really well. And it's not just hospitals, but it's the primary healthcare centers, which is the first level of contact of the population. So at one end, they have done that. At the other end, they have developed very good capability of diagnosing, very good capability of tracking these viruses and infections. So Nipah, many people may not realize that there were 19 cases in Kerala, out of which I believe 16 or 17 died. It had a fatality rate of almost 90%.
So both, I mean, we're looking at also the Indian businesses where 18% of the merchandise export is actually coming from China. Yes. You are in the industry. Were there whispers of such an outbreak?
China is a very important part of supply chain, whether you look at consumer electronics, consumer durables, you look at solar industry, diamond, they are very, very important country. Now, even if you know this thing, say 1 month in advance, it is very difficult to find an alternative source because this is something like big black swan event. And everybody is unprepared. Once it happens, then you start counting your losses and trying to figure out how you can take corrective action.
So when were the whispers of an outbreak that were reaching the Indian businessmen? When was that time?
So I think it was sometime in mid of January when we started hearing that there can be a disruption. And then by end of January, the picture was very clear that disruption is real in many industry. In fact, if you look at something like diamond, entire business has come to standstill because they route 36% of their export from Hong Kong. And there's virtually zero activity in Hong Kong. So they are one who are struggling. If you look on solar developers, they are struggling because China actually accounts for 80% of solar module production in the world. And if you look at Indian companies, 70% of the import actually comes from China. So it is not easy to replace. So they are struggling. You look on consumer durable side, the story is more or less same.
All right, but what's going to be the impact on the Indian consumers? We actually did a ground report, and I went to the industrial hub in the northern state of Haryana, where I spoke with manufacturers there, and from electronics to pharmaceutical manufacturers in India who are heavily dependent on cheap raw materials coming from China. This is what they had to say.
For the past 2 years, this television factory in the western state of Haryana has supplied new generation televisions to global brands across India. They make 80,000 LED TV sets every month. The glass panel and electronic chips used for it are not available in India. So they are heavily dependent on China to import them. But after the coronavirus outbreak, most of the factories there are shut.
So all these that you can see are the sockets. These are made in China.
That has put 23-year-old Sagar, who manages this plant, in a tough spot.
Already 60 to 70% of the components we are using, we are highly dependent on China. So the glass, which is the open cell, has already been increased for up to about 20 to 25%. So for the next quarter, there is definitely shortage in supply. So at least 10 to 15% of the prices will be increased for the retailers.
In another factory in the area, workers are busy cutting wires for a smartphone charger. They export 80% of their components from China. But as the crisis continues, its owner, B.L. Agarwal, says he's already working on a backup plan.
Taiwan, South Korea and Japan have some electronic chip dealers who can help us. But coronavirus is spreading there too, so it is better to get supply from there as soon as possible.
The pharma sector too has taken a hard hit. India imports nearly 85% of APIs, or active pharmaceutical ingredients, from China to make crucial medicines. But in the past 1 month, their stocks have nearly depleted, forcing the factory owner Rajesh Bansal to pay double for raw chemicals that are in short supply.
We are paying twice for the raw material, but because of the price cap on medicines, we cannot raise the cost for the consumers. So we have cut our production, and in the coming time, it will hurt the labor force as well.
And if the crisis continues, job losses in these small manufacturing units would hurt the Indian economy that is already facing a slowdown.
So, Shahid, then last word to you, because what should be done now?
You know, I think we have to be prepared at multiple levels. One level is to, of course, strengthen our healthcare system. And the most effective way of preventing is to wash hands frequently with soap and warm water.
All right. And saying happy birthday to you twice in your head is what I was told by one health expert. But thank you so much. I am completely out of time. But there's more information out on BBC World online sites and also on World Health Organization sites. So do go through it. Thank you for being with us. Do tweet your comments with #WorkLifeIndia. Till next time, namaste.